Hi friends and welcome. I have a lot of projects to share with you today, so let's get started. For project number 1, we're going to make a simple doily wall hanging. I purchased this embroidery hoop for $1 at a thrift store. I'm applying 1 coat of the antique wax from Waverly and wiping it back very well. I did let it sit there for 48 hours because I didn't want any of the antiquing wax to come off on the doily because I don't want to do any damage to it. I just want to be able to display it and still be able to pull it out and use it if I change my mind. So I decided to use the double-sided tape. What I'm doing now is placing the extra overlap on the inside because I'm going to apply the double-sided tape directly on to the embroidery hoop. And I lost all my footage, so I'm going to show you guys just a little bit of how I did it. I'm applying the tape right on the inside of the hoop, folding over the edge of the doily and making sure that any gaps are taped down well. And this double-sided tape works very well because it is so sticky. And if you're doing large areas, you might find that it's easier to press up against the tape using a pair of scissors because it can stick to your fingers. And I found that it doesn't stick so well to metal. So I had actually used the side of a pair of scissors to help me get the tape to stick to the hoop. I'm using some greenery to cover up that top part of the hoop. After I joined the pieces together with some string, I then took a small piece of floral wire, wrapped it around, and now you see me twisting it on there just to help keep the pieces together. Then I used some hot glue to add the greenery onto the hoop and wrap some pip berries around to cover up that center part. And at the end of this video, I will link on another video on how I put these into a picture frame. And that shows a little bit better of how I use the double-sided tape. Please comment and share with me different ideas on ways to display doilies. Our next project is repurposing these little toaster oven trays. I decided not to paint this piece because I'm going to use it as an herb drying rack or flowers. So that way it would be both decorative and practical. Any type of baking cooling rack would work. I think that they have them at the Dollar Tree. These just happened to be from a toaster oven that broke, and someone thought that I could repurpose them. So here I am just tying them upside down. I wish you guys could smell how incredible this lavender is. You could use these little wire racks for a variety of projects. Here I am taking some white eyelet that someone had cut off of something and tying it to the top and tacking the sides in place with a little hot glue. I wanted to fold it over because it is a raw edge, and I just thought it looked nicer. I decided to add a wooden tag to it using a water slide decal that I had printed out a few months back. Taking a wood plank that I got from the Dollar Tree, cutting it down to the size of the water slide decal, and I had painted the one side with chiffon cream, and that will help the printing on the decal to be able to show up a little bit better. So I do end up with a problem with this decal, and I'll let you guys know what it is as I'm starting to push it up. It's going up easy, but it starts to feel gummy. And that, which usually for me means that I didn't spray it well enough with the sealer. And I remember when I made these over the summer, I did use the Rust-Oleum sealer. And I have since switched over to the Krylon triple spray with a lot better success rate. So this one has a lot of cracks in it. I decided to keep it because I think that it looked, kind of aged and vintage, which is a look that I like. But just so you know, in case you ever had that happen to you. And after this piece did dry, I did go over it with the sealer just to kind of fill in all of the cracks. Then I tied it right around the top of this piece and added some more lavender that I picked yesterday. So what are some of your ideas for repurposing this type of metal rack? Project number 3 is another idea for repurposing these type of metal racks. Now this one I did decide to paint. I used some of the multi-surface and enamel paint from Apple Barrel, and it did apply a lot easier when I used a pouncing motion, and I like how it gave it some texture. I took some of the Dollar Tree ribbon and dyed it in some of the watered down antique wax from Waverly, along with this little piece of lace, because I want it to match the paper wreath that I applied the antiquing wax to a few weeks ago. And I will link that video for you right up here in case you missed it. And then I tied the ribbon up on either end to be able to use it as a hanger. And I had this wedding book for my husband and I thought that this would just make a really nice like little wall hanging scrapbook. So you could do this with the birth announcements or for birthdays, and you don't have to glue them on. I thought you could use clothespins and be able to change this out like a message board. I just took some handmade paper and layered some of the different things that I photocopied from the book and cut out a picture and glued that onto the top of the paper. And then I took some antique wax and run around all of the edges. Then I added different types of embellishments, some ribbon, little flowers with pearls, and then I did glue some pearls on. I also think we could come up with something really creative and do a holiday display on one of these racks. You guys definitely have to let me know what you think and what your ideas are. So in last Wednesday's video, I did repurpose one of the old window frames that I had, and this time I decided to do a full window. I will say it is much easier to just do the frame. This one had almost like cement tacked into it. Now that is paint. I do end up getting that off with a razor blade. So there's a lot of areas on the opposite end of the window, but I cleaned it up the best that I could, use this razor blade, and I did run over the entire window with some fine grit sandpaper to get off any of the flaking paint and bring out some of the wood color. Found these knobs, decided to add them to the bottom and turn this piece into a rack. I did the double-sided tape method with all of these old doilies. You could definitely cut them down to shape and glue them onto the back. You could also put fabric back there if you have like a vintage tablecloth, or maybe if you have a quilted pillow sham, you could probably put just about anything back there on display. Now don't forget, if you're looking for things to craft on, any little piece of household construction material will work. This was some of the beadboard we had left over from our kitchen project. I evened it up using my jigsaw and then sanded it. And my husband drilled in 2 holes for me up on the top. And I'm using one of the IOD crockery stamps to make a quick and easy wall hanging. I found this pom-pom garland at the Dollar Tree. They only had 1 pack of it and I love it. I think it is so fun. I'm going to tie a little piece of it on there and then hot glue on some pine cones. I thought these would also make really cute holiday ornaments for the tree. So next we're going to upcycle a metal grill basket. Had this in my stash for quite a while. I'm going to do the same thing I did with the oven rack, combining the 2 white paints and pouncing it on to give it some texture. But with this one, I took some fine grit sandpaper and added some distress. Next, I'm taking a combination of natural pine cones and lightly painted ones, along with some other natural elements. And I left the circle in the middle to add one of the antique ball mason jars. Added some fairy lights inside, and then I did add some Spanish moss to the bottom to cover up the battery pack, but I think it would also look nice with some type of greenery as well. Or maybe for the holidays, adding some bright colored Christmas bulbs. For our next project, we're going to upcycle this metal serving dish. It does have a warped edge on the top, so it doesn't seal all the way, and it's missing one of the inside pieces. So using the enamel paint, I covered the top so that way the tissue paper transfer that I'm going to apply will show up a little bit better. And this is one that I got from my stash that I printed out months ago. The image is from thegraphicsfairy.com. I printed it out on tissue paper, and then I did apply a coat of spray sealer so that as I'm adding it on here with the Mod Podge, that way I have a less chance of the ink smearing and bleeding. And I'm using some saran wrap to help smooth out some of the wrinkles. Now I'm taking Mod Podge right along that edge, and then I'll tear the tissue paper off. And then once that is all torn off, I take the paintbrush with some Mod Podge going along the edge again just to make sure that it's nice and smooth. Then taking almost a dry brush with the white paint, I went around the handles and the top and bottom edge. And then I applied 2 of the stamps from the Rose 12 set from IOD on top of the rose image. And I added a bow onto the handle with some of the white eyelet trim that someone had given me. This was a super easy, quick project using some of the wood circles. I painted the insides with some of that white paint, and I was so excited that I got this little stamp. It's a Bible verse, and I picked it up from the thrift store for $1, and I thought it fit these wood rounds perfect. And I think that they'd make really nice Christmas ornaments, maybe putting some red berries on the top. So I had some black and white baker's twine. This one gave me a hard time. I had to go get a stick pin to pull it through that, but I got it. And this was a really fun project. I think that kids would have fun making these for the holidays. So in case you missed the bonus video from Wednesday, you're going to want to hit the one on the left. And if you'd like to see how I did those doilies and the picture frames, you're going to want the one on the right. Friends, I want to thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed this video. Have a super blessed week, and God bless you.